Thank you for clicking on to watch this recap of the workshop Social Media Fundamentals. Today's podcast will last around 45 minutes. My contact details are at the end, so if you do have any questions during the workshop, please feel free to drop me a message and I will come back to you as soon as possible. My name is Patricia Owens. I work for a company called Full Circle Management Solutions. We are based in Belfast and we're a management consultancy practice dealing with small to medium enterprises and helping them to take their business to the next level. So I suppose a lot of what I would be doing would be delivering workshops and one-to-one mentoring with a digital focus or strategic focus within marketing. I am going to share my slides with you now so that you will be able to follow these with me. Okay, so as part of social media fundamentals, we're going to look at the big four within this workshop. So we're looking at LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for your business. So in terms of what they are, we're going to break that into it. Some of you may have already watched the podcast about getting your business online for beginners. The reason that is quite useful is it helps us to segment who our customers are in terms of then who's on each of the four platforms that we're going to be covering today. That can be a lot more useful. So if we're looking at our customers and we're thinking it's 18 to 35, we can make informed decisions then as to which platform that we should put most of our efforts into. So it can be quite useful for you guys to watch that first. And there's a lot of exercises within that. Today won't be as much exercise focused, more of information gathering for you guys. But again, if there's something and I'm talking quite quickly or giving a lot of information out, you can hit pause, rewind and go back. So it might take you slightly longer to go through the workshop, but again, that's fine. Once we segmented our customers, it's very important to then look and say, actually, what do I have time for? So I suppose what today we're going to do is look at the four platforms. That doesn't mean that you need to be on all four. You might sell to all four customer segments, but you only have an hour a week to devote to social media. If that's the case, then there's absolutely no way that you can be keeping four different platforms up to date. People always say to me, it's fine, I can just throw the same thing up through Facebook and it'll go onto my Instagram, or vice versa, onto my Instagram and it'll go to my Facebook. And the same with LinkedIn and Twitter. But what I would say is, if you're creating content for Instagram, that's created for a certain demographic, it's created for a certain following, and people are expecting a certain type of content on Instagram. That may not be the same on Facebook. And if we're looking at it and we're saying, actually, my followers on Facebook and my followers on Instagram are quite similar, because when I set up my Instagram page, what I asked was that people from my Facebook went across and liked my Instagram page. If that's the case, by putting one thing up, you are going to reduce your engagement or your potential engagement. What we don't want is for you to start off thinking, okay, I'm going to create this content. It's good for the like of Facebook, so I'll just copy it across. If somebody sees that on Facebook, then they engage with it. They like it. You've put a lot of effort into that engagement post. If you then copy and paste that onto your Instagram straight away, somebody goes to their Facebook page, their newsfeed, they then go to their Instagram and have a scroll there. They see the content again. It doesn't have the same effect. The likelihood of them engaging with that is not as common. So we want it to be, when we create content, it actually goes to one platform or to the other. That doesn't mean that we can't reshare that content. If you were to ask any of your customers what they seen on Facebook 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, the likelihood is they wouldn't be able to tell you. So if we're using that content on Instagram 4 weeks later, there's absolutely no reason why people wouldn't engage with it. So we can be creating the same content, but that's where a plan and a schedule becomes so much more important, because we can then see when we will use that again, and we will use it for analysing. So today we'll be looking at how to analyse whether something worked or whether it didn't work. So within that, if something didn't work on Facebook and we plan to use it on Instagram, we need to analyze it and say, why did it not work? Before we reuse it again, because it's just rehashing something that didn't work for us in the first place. So what I am going to cover today, or what are the objectives for today, so to allow you to understand the benefits for being reactive online. And I say reactive because a lot of people think they have to be proactive online. When we have a plan and a strategy in place and we've scheduled all of our posts, we've taken the proactive element out of social media. We've done that. So essentially what we need to do now is keep it reactive. Social media is called social media for a reason. The people, the users on it, want to be social. So if you're asking for opinions, or you're asking for people to answer questions, and then you're not showing them that you appreciate them at the end, why would they continue to do that? If we're looking at the like of Instagram, where we're maybe looking, or Facebook, where we're looking for reviews, LinkedIn, where we're looking for recommendations, if we don't react with that when people give us those statements, are we really going to expect them to continue to give us those reviews or those recommendations when we haven't done anything with it, or we haven't, re-engaged with those people? So we do have to be reactive. When we get a notification to say somebody has done something, go on, hit like. If it's leaving an opinion, say thank you. If it's a question, answer that question. So a lot of people use social media for being kind of a customer service element, where if something goes wrong, they're going on there, they want to see that you're being reactive. People say to me, I can't be on at all hours, and there's only certain times that I can respond. And I suppose being clear with that from the outset, to let your customers know that it's only manned between these hours, or there's only somebody that can respond to queries between a certain length of time. So if you're always going back to somebody, and then you leave, within minutes, and then you leave somebody else sitting for 3 hours, that will become an issue. But if you've made it clear that you only answer responses between 9 and 5, all of a sudden then that's what they expect, that's what they want. So when you go back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, they now know that they are being responded to, and you care about what they're doing. So it's not about being reactive and being online at all hours. It's about being consistent with your reactiveness. Today we're going to look about what each of the platforms are. And within that, really look at who's on those platforms. We can go online, we can say, the most active age group is, 18 to 35, 35 to 45, and we can draw stereotypes. But again, what I want you guys to know is that you take that with a pinch of salt. There is still millions and millions of users on social media. So even if your following may not be the biggest catchment on LinkedIn, may not be the biggest catchment on Twitter, they need to make a decision. Are they still there? Is there 2 million people? Is there 1 million people? Is 100,000 people enough for me? And if that's the case, and that 100,000 are going to be on Twitter, they may not be in any way a big percentage of that user, but they could still be there. So it's not about putting one platform off completely because it's not your demographic. It's about making informed decisions of where people are and where they want to talk to you online. And also the type of post. So we'll be touching on this whenever we go into each platform in depth, but there's no point talking to somebody in shorthand when they want reams of information. If they're there and they expect your personality and your lifestyle to be put up on that platform, and you don't do that, then very much it won't work. So it's looking at the platforms, what is expected and who is there. We're going to touch on what good content is and how to target strategically. So rather than, putting all this money into paid advertising, is there a way that we can look at keywords to actually create good content and target people that we think would be potential customers? And we're also going to look at scheduling posts. So scheduling posts allow us to be reactive, not proactive. So if we're thinking, actually, the scheduling post makes me proactive, and then I have to only be reactive, it's taken a lot of time and effort. And I suppose the drain or the drag for a lot of people online is that element of having to be online all the time. So if we're taking that out by creating a schedule and doing that maybe one day a week or one day every 2 weeks, we can now be reactive and enjoy social media rather than seeing it as a chore that I haven't had something up in the last 3-4 days. I need to stick something up to keep it active. Okay, so we're going to look at the social media platforms first. Again, as I said, we're looking at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. That's by no means all of them, but in terms of the most popular platforms, the ones that are used the most and the ones that are quite good in terms of businesses selling their products, they would be probably the best four. So Facebook then, who is on Facebook? And as I say, we look at stereotypes. We look at online, we say the majority of Facebook followers in the US are 40 years of age and above. If we're thinking that, we're thinking actually it's an aging platform. It's most people have moved away from Facebook. They're not on it anymore. But then if we look at the UK, the most active group of people on Facebook is 25 to 34. So we're thinking actually within the UK, it's slightly younger. It's still an aging platform if I'm targeting young people, but it might be a platform, that people are more mature on, have a bit of time in their hands, and it's where they want to be rather than looking at the younger, less mature platforms that are out there. In terms of gender, it's very, very split, and a lot of the platforms are moving towards that. If I were delivering this workshop 6 months to a year ago, we would have been saying that Facebook could have been more of a female platform. But right now, if we're looking at the demographic split of those that have gave that information to Facebook, we're saying it's in and around 54%. Now, when I say that, a lot of people, two females, when I say that, a lot of people then go, well, I sell to male, so I'm not going to be on that platform. What we need to think about is the female an influencer? If the female is an influencer, then we need to be talking to the female to sell to the female, who will then tell the male to buy. If that's the case, well, then we shouldn't be forgetting about Facebook. Because if the female has that big an influence or that big a power, they're absolutely somebody that we should be selling to. But our marketing message, which you will see in the other podcast, needs to be very much geared towards selling to that female as a gift, or as giving them enough information that they can then sell to the male. That said, we're still thinking there's still 46% of Facebook users are male. So we're not thinking actually, it's a female dominated industry, a female dominated platform. We're saying actually there's a lot of males on there. There's millions and millions of people that are on Facebook. And if I were to give you the stats, it's mind boggling. We don't have the capacity as SMEs to sell to every single person in the world. Not every single person in the world needs our product, wants our product, or knows about our product. And we don't have the marketing budget to sell to that amount of people. So we need to be looking at the flip side and saying, actually, when I look at Facebook, there's 46% of those total users that I can be selling to. And you might find that your demographics are very much male focused. If you're looking at your insights, you're saying, my insights show me that my followers are all male, but that depends on the content that you're putting out. If you're a male posting, talking to, fellow males, it's going to be very male focused. Females won't want to follow that page. So it's going to be very much a male dominated page for you within a female dominated platform. So we're not thinking actually I need to be talking to that amount of people. What we need to generalize is that it's an aging platform. People always say to me, well, young people don't use it anymore. Young people absolutely do use it, but they don't use it in the way that they used to use it, or the way that we want them to use it. So if we're looking at Facebook, there's a domino effect. If somebody likes our post or shares our post, that goes outside of our following, outside of our circle. So it goes on to a news feed where it'll say, Patricia Owens likes Full Circle Management Solutions post. So even if you don't follow Full Circle Management Solutions post, you will still see it because Patricia Owens liked it. If you're on at a certain time in the day and you happen to be friends with Patricia and you have seen it. Okay, so we're looking at it and we're saying, right, well, how do I get this outside of that domino effect? You get people to engage on the posts. Younger people don't tend to spend a lot of time going in and out of engaging posts. They more so do it to browse, to waste a bit of time. Now, that's not to say that not every young person isn't going to like a post or isn't going to share a post, but it has to be something that they're very much interested in and haven't seen on another platform. So they're spending most of their time on another platform, then Facebook is more just casual scrolling for them, and if there's something that they see. So in terms of being targeted, you can still target a younger demographic on Facebook. The post will come in front of their eyes, because on a sponsored post, you're paying for it to go in front of a certain person with their cookies showing you the information of what they're interested in. So if we're looking at the older demographic or the aging population that is on Facebook, we're thinking we don't have to pay as much to actually target those people. We can actually do this in a different way. So within Facebook, they will engage, they will spend most of their time there, so we can then be targeting that person to push our following out. So it's easier to get and gain a following on Facebook with an older demographic, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible with a younger demographic. How often should I post? Again, this is a very, very common question that a lot of people say to me. And there is no one size fits all. Some businesses post 7 times a week, one a day, and they get a great following. Some people will post 7 times a day and they don't really get a great, or 7 times a week, and they don't get a good following. So what we want to actually say is consistency is key. If you post 3 to 4 really, really good posts every week, that can be enough. Facebook algorithms basically say that if somebody is interested in the content that you're putting up, the keywords that you're using, they will show your your posts to your following, and they will also show your posts to people that are searching for those keywords. So if you are active on it, if you're consistent with your activeness, so if you think 3 to 4 times enough is enough for me to get good content, well then you don't have to be posting 7 times a week, and you could find that you'll get the same amount of people seeing your posts, the same amount of people engaging with your posts as if you were to put 7 posts up a week. That said, some people can get away with putting 1 post up a week, and it actually will work a lot better, but it all depends on quality of post. If the post is good, the post is with an engaged following, so you have, say, you have 1,000 people who follow your Facebook page, and every single one of them will see something when you put it up, and you only have to post once a week. There's no science around it, but they have to engage with that post. If 300 of those people stop engaging with that post, they will stop seeing the posts that you put up, and it wouldn't matter if you posted every day, they still wouldn't see it until they re-engage with that post again. When should I post then? So if we go online and we look online and we say, okay, Facebook, the busiest times on Facebook are between 1 and 4 p.m. And later on in the week, that's great. We now think, right, I'll only post on a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday, and I'll post between those times. What we need to consider is, actually, if I'm only posting at those times, what if somebody's only on a Sunday? We're looking at an aging demographic that maybe don't have as much free time in their hands. They maybe have children or grandchildren that they look after during the day. Well, 1 to 4 might not be the best time for them. So we're thinking, actually, the people that I need to be talking to won't be on at that time. Or we're thinking they will be on at that time, but that's a busy time for Facebook. How do I get my post in front of my followers? If they've followed 50 businesses and have 500 friends on Facebook, how do I make mine stand out that Facebook is going to show it to that person? So sometimes you're actually better going with the times that are not as busy, the times that maybe don't stand out as on Facebook as being, massively busy times, because then you can find that your content will be found by your following. But we need to think realistically. Am I going to put a fry up at 5 o'clock in the morning for to target, a mum? She's not going to be interested in a fry at that time of the morning. Where a van man who is driving to work and sees that on the way and calls in at the side of the road is going to be interested in that. But the way that I target those two people is going to be completely different. So we need to think of the marketing message that we're putting out and what time. If you post twice in one day, how simple is that to get Facebook to actually direct that post, to let that post rank? If we post twice in one day, Facebook are going to say, right, the first half are going to see the first post, and the cutoff point is the second one, and we're only going to show that content to that second demographic. Now that will work for certain people. If I give you an example, if a coffee shop have a morning special, it finishes at 11 o'clock, they want to let people know, they put it on early in the morning. People then find out about it, but they don't want anybody after 11 o'clock finding out about that special that they had on that day. So they want to put up a post slightly before 11 o'clock, but then everybody that comes on after only see that second post. So it can work in your favor, but if we're putting like two good posts, we put a lot of effort into both of those posts, we don't want it to actually then fall on deaf ears and not get the reach that it deserves. Tools then. Can I schedule posts? Absolutely. Facebook have a tool themselves, which if you go on to your Facebook page, across the very top there will be page and insights, and then there might be a wee more button. That more button, if you click that, there will be an option for publishing tools. Publishing tools then opens up a thing, and down the left hand side we will see a column, and there will be scheduled posts. What we do is we click that, and then that opens up a page that essentially looks like anything that we would have created or a post that we would have done, and there'll be a wee green button over towards the right hand side, but not at the very top. If we hit that, that says create, and we just create a post exactly like we would have if we were just creating a normal post on our Facebook. When we do that, we create the post, we put a video or an image, and then at the very, very bottom, instead of it saying post now, it says schedule. We hit that and it'll open up a box. That box then has a calendar where we tell it what time, what day, and when we want it, and then we hit OK. That becomes a scheduled post where we now have that scheduled and we don't have to do anything about it. That goes live on our newsfeed at that time, and if that's the right time, it creates engagement. So we can be creating all of these posts thinking that's our plan. Now that's, we want to post 3 to 4 times a week. If we want to do this on a Sunday or a Monday morning, it can happen then across the week, and that's where the proactiveness comes in. We just simply be reactive when those posts go up and people engage with it. How do I increase my reach? So there's 2 options for this. One, we can create an ad. An ad basically is created within Ads Manager. It's not a post and it doesn't go onto your timeline, but it does target a lot of people. So in terms of demographics, we can be very, very specific as to, do we want to target locally? Do we want to target a specific town? Do we want to target a specific country? We can also be specific in terms of a male or a female, or both. We can be specific. Do we want to target a certain age bracket? So can we go from 13 to 65, or can we narrow that down where we only want 18 to 25-year-olds to see this? Again, think about the post that you're putting out there, the ad that you're creating, and who you want that to go to. And then further down at the in the ad, we're creating actually the demographics. So we're saying, do we want the person to be working in sales? Do we want the person to be an interior designer? Do we want the person that we're targeting to be a mum or a dad? And what age do we want their children to be? Do we want them to be recently engaged or just married? Do we want them to be Irish living abroad? And we're only targeting the like of Australia because we post there. You can be very specific in terms of your demographics, and Facebook can be quite cost effective in terms of advertising if it's used right. If we're not targeting the right people, if we're not targeting the like of engaged shoppers that maybe trust shopping online, then there's absolutely no reason. But again, if we target engaged shoppers and tell them to come into the shop, we're adding another chink in the chain where they're happy to buy online. So that's maybe not the right demographic, and we need to make that decision. And that very much is a trial and error scenario, but it can help you to develop further. And then we need to evaluate the success. So within our page, and we're looking at promotional tools, there's an option for insights. What insights will show us is what type of followers we have. So is our page very male focused? Is our page female focused? Within each of those, is our post, or is our following very much 18 to 25, 25 to 34? Where is our following based? And again, that doesn't mean that we can only sell to that demographic. It may mean that we have to actually do an ad or a boosted post, and within a boosted post we're being specific about the age group. Again, we're using the same demographics to target new people, to get our content in front of those people. And if that's the case, that will work as well. But we have to be evaluating each of these times. If we put £20 behind a boosted post and it only reaches 10 people, then it wasn't a good boosted post. Why did it not work? Who did we target? Did we get any sales from those 10 people? Because if that's the case, it might well be worth what we paid for it. But we have to be very hard on ourselves. We have to look at posts, organic posts. Did they work? Did they not work? Was it better than usual? If it was better than usual, would I change it if I was running it again to try and do better, or did it work okay with the way that it was? But evaluating it, we can only evaluate it based on what we set as our goals. So if we're looking at the last podcast, how to get your business online, we would have set goals and objectives, and that in that case then we can look at why we're online. We have our reason, we have our target, our posts are very much geared towards that, so we can evaluate the success based on that goal, and it gives us something to check back on and look at our analytics. Okay, so Twitter then. Who is on Twitter? Again, this is very much a generalization and a stereotype, which works for some businesses and doesn't work for others. You know your customers more than anyone else. So if you've profiled your customers, you will know, do they fall under that category, and can I talk to them on this platform? So in terms of the best time to post, if we're looking at Twitter, a lot of online things tell us between 12 and 1 and 4 and 6 p.m. are the best times for putting content out there, because it's when a lot of followers go on. There is also the like of local business hours, I think you would call them. So we have Legendary Hour, we've got Belfast Hour, there's Causeway Hour. So there's a lot of different within Northern Ireland. And if you just do a search online to find business hours, you could even find for the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland that there's a lot. What I would say is some are more active than others. So if we're looking at a good example, Belfast Hour is very, very good as an example. It's got a huge following, and it was probably one of the first to start up. But they're what they are is an online networking hour. So especially whenever we can't get out to networking events, we can be doing a bit of engaging content, talking to people online. Some people find it a lot easier to talk to people online or to sell their product online, but there's engaged business. What I would say is very much business to business. Where Facebook would have been business to consumer, Twitter would be very much business to business, in that sense, where you can be generating a bit of conversation. Now, when I say it's business to business, that doesn't mean that people aren't on there willing to spend. So in terms of driving sales, I wouldn't be doing it constantly, but there's no reason why, if somebody's engaged in your product as a business owner, that they won't buy from you. So you can be seeing some sales coming through business to consumer if we're targeting the right people. So who is online? There's 13.7 million people on Twitter, and within the UK there's two demographics that stand out as being the highest. So we've got 18 to 29 and 30 to 49. Again, I separate them because I could say 18 to 49, but that's too wide. We can't talk to an 18-year-old the same way that we would talk to a 49-year-old. So we break those down based on the two demographics, but they are the most popular within the UK. If we're looking at the average age of a Twitter user within the USA, it's a 40-year-old. So again, it's more of an aging platform, it's more mature. The younger people, we can assume that because Twitter will be known for a lot of politics, sports, scores, short, sharp information. So the like of headlines for journalism to drive people to watch, to read newspapers, and government bodies putting out legislation and new rules. That would be where Twitter would be very, very common in. So if we're looking at the 18 to 29, we can assume that they're on for the like of journalism or sports to keep up to date. So again, if that is very much your market and people are having conversations within your realm, there's definitely somewhere that you can be putting your content out there. But in terms of a more selling platform, you will find it's more of an aging platform. So if you sell to an older demographic, it can be a lot easier. In terms of the female-male split, Twitter is probably one of the the biggest split. So within the US, 66% of Twitter users are men, and within the UK, that's dropping down to about 56%. So again, it's not massive, but it is one of the bigger changes. So if we're looking at, actually we want to target more of a older sort of male, that's probably where we need to be. But we need to be thinking the type of male that we're talking to. Are they going to be interested in Twitter? Are they going to be interested in the content that is on Twitter? And that's where we will find there are exceptions to the rule, and we can be tapping into those as well. So how often should I post? Twitter is a very needy platform compared to the other platforms, but it does come down to when we put something out, if it's at the right time. So if we're thinking, when would our followers, if we're talking to a certain demographic, when are they going to have the time to be online rather than Twitter's busiest hour? Then if we've made that decision and we thought about it, we're thinking we're pretty spot on here, we've got this right, we have to look at the hashtags that we put out there. If we're putting the right hashtags, then people are going to be seeing it. So people do generic searches at the top. So if they're online to find something out, like a result of a local football match, or a golf result, they are going to search for a certain thing online. If you've used that hashtag because it's relevant to your business, then you will find that your content will be seen. It's very difficult to do that all the time, so we need to be looking at, when I'm scheduling this, is this the right time to be scheduling? So that'll come down to, can I schedule my posts? On Twitter, there is no option, but if we look at other software out there, there is the like of Hootsuite. Hootsuite is free for up to 3 platforms and up to 10 users. So we could have 10 people logging on and all scheduling posts for us. The one thing that they need to remember is they can only schedule 30 posts at a time. So what that means is, if 30 posts go on and are scheduled, if 3 of those go live, we have space for another 3. So we don't have to wait till all 30 go live. We can continually top that up to 30, but at any point there can only be 30 posts that are scheduled for free. And there are other tools out there that you can be using. However, probably the most user-friendly or the easiest that I have found to date in terms of free software would be the like of Hootsuite. If we're thinking about 3 platforms and we're using all 4, then what I have found is scheduling through Facebook and then scheduling through Hootsuite for the other 3 keeps me below the free option, and I'm able to do all of my scheduling online. So how do I increase my reach on Twitter? Well, by going out there and asking our followers to give us shout outs, by having conversations online, because the more conversations that we have, the more people engage with us. By using good hashtags, by using hashtags that maybe are being going viral, if they're relevant to your business. We don't want to be jumping on hashtags that are completely irrelevant, because the one thing is, if somebody comes across our business, we probably only get one chance to be in front of their eyes, and if that isn't a relevant post, they're not going to check back. Where if it's relevant, they're more likely to engage with your post, they're more likely to follow your page, and then by increasing our reach, we've gone outside of our circle or our following. If we can get people engaging with us, get people commenting, again, they're taking it outside the following. And Twitter is a lot user friendly in terms of it doesn't hinder a business as much. So if we can get people to have conversations with us online, we're certainly increasing our reach. We can also be using things like government agencies to mention us, or well-known people out there that have huge followings. They can be engaging with us, but again, they have to be within the right sphere. If their followers are all going to be completely useless to my product or selling my product, there's no reason for me to go out there and try and get them to follow my page. Yes, they might have 2 or 3 people that if they engage with us, but if our content isn't relevant, they're never going to engage with it, and it's not going to work. So when we're looking at evaluating the success, we want to look at what has worked and what will work going forward. So we're looking at, if I evaluate the success of this page, did the post that I put out get more or less of a reach? Did more or less people see it? So we can look at our insights based on every post. If it's set up as a business post, we can see how many people retweeted, how many people liked or followed our page. So we have to set our goal, and then we can evaluate our success based on that. Instagram then. So who's on Instagram? It very much is a younger platform. So Instagram is owned by Facebook, and it very much has seen that split where the younger population have moved towards Instagram and the older population have moved towards Facebook. So in terms of the demographics, very much under 34 worldwide, and that's bringing in the like of the US. But in terms of the UK, we're talking about 25 to 34 would be the biggest population. Again, it's got a 54% split for females, but that doesn't mean that if we're looking at males, we shouldn't be posting. It's just very much the hashtags that we use, the content that we put out there that we're sharing that is actually hitting that right demographic and getting to the right people. In terms of the best times to post on the like of Instagram, if we're thinking, what's the busiest time or when are the most people on? Again, that very much depends on the time of day. So very, very early in the morning means that you're going live on a news feed. So there's no harm in going about 5 a.m. Tea breaks are also very good, but what we want to do is put it on slightly before tea breaks, and then later on in the evening when people have time in their hands, they're going to sit down and spend a lot of time on Instagram. So we're looking at maybe 9 to 10 o'clock break. That said, you have to look at your own business, you have to look at your own customers and when are they going to be on, because it's not about when is most people on Instagram. I don't sell to most people. I want to sell to my customers or my demographic. How often should I post? So there's two types of posts on Instagram. We have stories and we have grid. Grid is very much like Facebook. So in terms of posting, we can schedule those, we can make those happen. But what we want those to be is high quality, good images that go out to the masses and people understand. In terms of stories, they're only live for 24 hours. So what we want them to do is more fun, more engaging, getting people to do stuff. If it's react to the story, if it's leave a comment, if it's share that story, that's what we want them to do. But they're only live for 24 hours, so we don't worry about the quality of those images unless we're a photography business or imagery is very important to us. But we can have a bit of personality and fun within our stories, and it does only stay live for 24 hours. So how often should I post? We should have stories going live probably every day, but on our grid, it's pretty much like Facebook. If we're staying consistent 3 to 4 times a week with good content, creative content that people want to engage with, it can work. Okay. So in terms of scheduling posts, I've touched on this. There's quite a few options for scheduling Instagram grid posts. So if we're thinking, what should I be putting up? When can I be doing it? And we've made those decisions. We can look at the like of Buffer, the like of Later, or Hootsuite if we've already got Hootsuite set up for the other platforms. And we've not used our 3 platforms. We can be using the like of that for scheduling Instagram grid. However, stories are very much about in the moment. It's very difficult to plan an Instagram story, so I would suggest that we're doing that live on the page to put those there. We can practice them on camera roll and then upload them that way, and that will work as well. How do I increase my reach? So we can do sponsored posts within Instagram. We can do that on Facebook Ad Manager, Content Creator, or we can do that through the Instagram platform by sponsoring the post. Again, we can be very specific. So within Facebook, it's pretty much the same. If you understand Facebook, then Instagram will be very easy to do those sponsored posts. And evaluating the success. Basically, it's exactly the same as any other platform. You set a goal, you know what you want to achieve from that platform, and you work to achieve it. So if you want user-generated content, your posts will be very much geared towards that, and your success will be geared off the fact, has somebody sent you that content? LinkedIn then, so who is on LinkedIn? It's very much an older platform. I'm going to say older, it's 35 to 49, and you will find that is active on it. After that, decision makers start to go into retirement, so they may still be active, but they're not looking to do business as much. So we do find that it is very much decision makers. For that reason, it can be found to be more male dominated, but that doesn't mean that the females on it can't make decisions. Most people go on to LinkedIn probably when they graduate to find jobs, and that is one side of LinkedIn. However, the other side is very much business to business, where people go into groups, have discussions, have conversations. So in terms of what we want to get out of LinkedIn, it very much is a male focused, short, sharp information. There's no point, there's no, niceties, there's no conversations. People just want to do business on it, and that's the way we should treat that platform. We can still network on that platform, but in terms of the conversations that we're having, if you want to connect with somebody, you connect with somebody. If you want to have a conversation, it's very much about networking online. The more groups that you're a part of, the more conversations that you can engage with, the more you will increase your following on that. How often should I post? It's definitely not as busy a platform. So if you are creating good content once a week, you'll find that that is more than enough for LinkedIn. Again, if you have 2 or 3 things to say in a week, you can put those out there. But think about the following weeks. We have to be consistent with our posts. So if we're only creating posts once a week, and then all of a sudden we put 4 or 5 out, the next few weeks are going to be difficult to actually get that engagement or people seeing what we put up. And when should I post? In terms of times, it's very much commuter times, or when people are on downtime. So looking at tea breaks, lunch times, slightly before work starts or slightly after work starts. We don't tend to see busyness on LinkedIn in the late evening, because most people don't really want to be doing business in the evening. And if they are, it's more browsing than actually having conversations. So meaningful post should be put in around the off times, but within working hours or commuting times. Tools then, can I schedule posts? So yes, we're going back to the like of Hootsuite. We can schedule on that, and that could be one of our 3. How to increase my reach? We can sponsor posts, or we can run ads, and that is done within our business page. So when we create a post, we can sponsor that post, or we can go into Ad Manager at the very, very top where we manage our page, and we can sponsor an ad there. Again, you can be very specific into who you target, right down to the very degree that somebody would have done, or where they would have studied, what year they would have graduated, or what their position is within a certain company. And evaluating the success is pretty similar to all of those that have gone before it. Set your goal. Once you set your goal, actually look and see, did I achieve that? And did I ask for that, so that I can rank fairly based on my achievement? So in terms of creating content then, we've got the 80-20 rule. 80-20 means 80% content and 20% sales. So if we're thinking actually 80% is about educating people about the product or service that we offer, about the customer service that we do, about the filler posts, about the relevant content, and 20% is actually driving people to want to buy from us and to push that button. Success stories before and after. So if we're looking at success stories in terms of what we have done for a customer, we don't have to be mentioning them, but if we can grow that following even further. The people behind your brand. So people's faces will always get more engagement than anything else. So in terms of the content that we want to be putting out there, the people behind your brand, even especially if we can't put before and afters up, or we can't put client success stories up because some people wouldn't be comfortable with that, we actually can be putting the people behind our brand up instead, so that people feel comfortable to have that initial inquiry. Sharing is caring. So if somebody else creates a post and it's relevant to you, you can be sharing that content and actually generating some interest off their following. Giveaways and competitions. Now you have to be very careful in terms of following their rules, which are available on each of the platforms, but there is competitions that are allowed online, and they can definitely help to increase following. Behind the scenes, so progress pictures about where things are, so people keep checking back to see the finished product. Creating good images. So if we're looking at how to create a good image, what I have done with one of this is just a work that we had done for one of the councils. so we were able to bring that from Canva. The top corner there is just a template that has been generic pulled off that, and we've edited it based on the content at the very bottom. How do I schedule? So if we're looking at schedule, and we've looked at Hootsuite there in terms of it, or you're using Facebook, I've put that in because if you're using all 4 platforms, you won't be able to do that Hootsuite for free. So can we schedule within Facebook and keep Hootsuite that it is free? Okay, so that is all the slides. I'm just going to stop that share for you. If you have any questions, please feel free. My email address is patricia@fullcircle.eu.com, patricia@fullcircle.eu.com. Thank you.